All right, let's see.
Okay. So we can proceed. Also, I was seeking to hear whether you are getting me. And you said, I think, yes. Gerald?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, welcome on board. Chido, I think we hope you're getting me as well.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So welcome. We are into the second week, which we are talking about reduction of waste. But before that, allow me to just start with the icebreaker here. Maybe Anja, if you can.
Let me just quickly move to the next slide.
Yes. I have an icebreaker, and I want to be able to share. You can use the chat box to respond to this question, and then we see who has the best answers in the end. So use the chat box. I will shortly share the screen of that icebreaker. Now, I don't know that you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. Let me widen it. Gerald, are you able to read for us this?
Yes, sir.
Can you read it? Yes.
First, I am dried.
Yes.
Then I am wet.
Yeah.
The longer I swim, the more tests you get. What am I?
Okay. What could this be? We can put it in the chat box. Don't think in a weird way. Just make it simple. It's not a difficult thing. I don't see anything on the chat box. Sanjay is saying fish. No. It's something we know so much, especially in Kenya, to just give an hint.
Do the question again.
He wanted to say fish. Do you want to read the question again, Gerald?
No, we can read it ourselves. We just couldn't see it right now.
Okay.
Could this be?
What could that?
This is now the next question. Go back.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was on that, yeah.
First I'm dried, then I am wet. The longer I swim, the more taste you get. What am I? Columbus. We've never had Columbus.
Yeah, it's in here. Mateo is saying beans. Gerald is saying coffee. We're almost there. Very close.
Oh, yeah. Tea. Tea. Is it tea leaves?
Yeah, just type it, Anja, if you think that's the right answer. Osea, I have not seen your answer. Tea leaves. Osea, what is your guess? Type it on. Okay. Yeah, actually the right answer. And the person who wins, I will give them a gift at the end of this training. Not this training today, at the end of this waste management program. So Gerald is right. It is tea. You know, Anja, you don't get any gift.
Okay. I'm used to that.
So the right answer is tea. I think that makes sense. We go to the next one. This one should be easy. The first person to answer is the winner for this one. Ose, are you able to read, or you can read and just answer? Ose? Maybe
Until I am measured.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Until I am measured, I am not known. Yet you miss me. When
Yes.
I have flown, what am I?
What could that be? Let me see the chat box.
Chat, I am not known.
What you
Yet
say
you
love?
miss me
No.
when I have flown.
Mateo says love. That's not right. Answer. Until I am measured, I am not known. Yet you miss me when I am flown. More answers, Gerald, Jose, just give a guess.
He just says it's love.
No.
You don't know love unless you measure it.
Can you measure?
Oh, what could this be? What could this be?
Where are the more answers? Okay, people seem to be stuck. Help. Osea says help. No. Age. Gerald is almost getting. Columbus, welcome. You can also participate. We are going through an brain teaser here. Okay. The right answer is time. Gerald was almost getting
yeah, of course. Oh. Huh?
Isaac, we can negotiate.
No, Gerald. Time. Okay, we got the next one. Until I am measured. I think this is, we have done this. Now, this one. What has cities but no houses, forests but no trees, and water but no fish? What would that be? Has cities but no houses, forests but no trees, then and water but no fish.
That's all one thing.
It's one thing. Let me see some few answers.
Teacher, this is too difficult. Cities, forests, and water.
As for cities but no houses. Just give a guess on the chat box. Seems no one is willing to guess.
This is the hardest of all.
This one is an easy one when I finally mention it. Desert. Desert now, but close. Okay. Maybe I can reveal because of the interest of time.
Yes, please.
It is a map.
Oh.
A map.
Oh.
No one should write after this. I know someone might be tempted to say map after I've mentioned.
Oh,
one
I
last
think you're
one.
really teasing us today.
One last one. I can be both, but I can be stolen with a glance. I am worthless to one, but priceless to two. What am I? This one is an easy one. The first answer, I can be both, but I can be stolen with a glance, and I'm worthless to one, but priceless to two. I think that should be the easiest.
That's love.
Yeah, that's love. Columbus has won that part.
Columbus found that, yes.
So I think that is it. Let me end it at that. And let me stop sharing. I hope we can do more in the future. There's a lot.
That was good fun.
You can project. You can share the screen.
Yeah, I'm done. So before we go to the Zoom, let's just have another of those short videos that give us an idea of what happens to waste in the world. This is on life cycle of plastic bottles. Enjoy. Can you hear my sound?
Can you start it? No.
Can you hear the sound? No sound?
No.
The same problem again. When I go to, I need to go stop sharing and start sharing again. Share the sound. Here we go. Now?
Yes.
This is the story of 3 plastic bottles, empty and discarded. Their journeys are about to diverge, with outcomes that impact nothing less than the fate of the planet. But they weren't always this way. To understand where these bottles end up, we must first explore their origins. The heroes of our story were conceived in this oil refinery. The plastic in their bodies was formed by chemically bonding oil and gas molecules together to make monomers. In turn, these monomers were bonded into long polymer chains to make plastic, in the form of millions of pellets. Those were melted at manufacturing plants and reformed in molds to create the resilient material that makes up the triplets' bodies. Machines filled the bottles with sweet, bubbly liquid, and they were then wrapped, shipped, bought, opened, consumed, and unceremoniously discarded. And now here they lie, poised at the edge of the unknown. Bottle 1, like hundreds of millions of tons of his plastic brethren, ends up in a landfill. This huge dump expands each day as more trash comes in and continues to take up space. As plastics sit there being compressed amongst layers of other junk, rainwater flows through the waste and absorbs the water-soluble compounds it contains, and some of those are highly toxic. Together, they create a harmful stew called leachate, which can move into groundwater, soil, and streams, poisoning ecosystems and harming wildlife. It can take Bottle 1 an agonizing 1,000 years to decompose. Bottle 2's journey is stranger, but unfortunately no happier. He floats on a trickle that reaches a stream that flows into a river, and a river that reaches the ocean. After months lost at sea, he's slowly drawn into a massive vortex where trash accumulates, a place known as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Here, the ocean's currents have trapped millions of pieces of plastic debris. This is one of 5 plastic-filled gyres in the world's seas, places where the pollutants turn the water into a cloudy plastic soup. Some animals, like seabirds, get entangled in the mess. They and others mistake the brightly colored plastic bits for food. Plastic makes them feel full when they're not, so they starve to death and pass the toxins from the plastic up the food chain. For example, it's eaten by lanternfish. The lanternfish are eaten by squid. The squid are eaten by tuna. And the tuna are eaten by us. And most plastics don't biodegrade, which means they're destined to break down into smaller and smaller pieces called microplastics, which might rotate in the sea eternally. But Bottle 3 is spared the cruel purgatories of his brothers. A truck brings him to a plant where he and his companions are squeezed flat and compressed into a block. Okay, this sounds pretty bad too, but hang in there. It gets better. The blocks are shredded into tiny pieces, which are washed and melted so they become the raw materials that can be used again. As if by magic, Bottle 3 is now ready to be reborn as something completely new. For this bit of plastic with such humble origins, suddenly, the sky is the limit.
Hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Isaac, over to you. Isaac seems to be busy. Doesn't matter. So today what we want to do is dive a bit deeper into how we can reduce waste. So that's looking again at the homework that you did over the weekend, hopefully. And then see how much we already know about how to avoid waste, how to reduce waste. And then we will look again at the waste management plan, how to draft that or how to set this up in our facilities. And the methods that we will be using throughout this training, again, is like during the other sessions as well, we will discuss as the group and discover as much as we can. But we would also like you in this session to present a little bit of what you found out during the exercise that you did on the platform. So I hope you all did that, so you're prepared and can give us some input in this session. But otherwise, I will lead you through it and we'll have to do it together. All right, let's just dive in directly. From the homework, the first question on the homework was, what is the relevant legislation on waste in your area, or in your region, or in your country? Were you able to find out? Please all open your mics and give me some answers. Were you able to find some information about the waste legislation in your countries? Chido?
Okay, in Zimbabwe, the main legislation is what we call EMA, which is the Environmental Management Act, and it has got also in it a number of regulations, but that it is the main act that deals with waste management.
Does the EMA also? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Continue.
You can go ahead.
No, finish first.
Okay, so I wanted to say the EMA now, it's supported by a number of regulations which enforces the waste management type of waste. So each regulation is focusing on then specific type of waste.
Okay.
Chapter 20 of 27.
Okay.
Section 70.
Okay, so you are actually quite well informed about which of the legislation is relevant for your company.
Yes.
Does Zimbabwe also have an authority that works with the EMA? Like, is there an office?
Yes, EMA is it was now through legislation. It is an authority, and it is the one which deals with that.
Okay.
It enforces, it ensures that people are abiding by what the Act is saying and what are the regulations saying.
Okay.
But anyway, although it is there, it is serious challenges in terms of implementation.
Which would be the main challenges?
The main challenges which are there is that when you breach what is in the Act, the fines are very low. So motivate people to.
So you're breaking off, Chido.
Okay, I said that the challenge is that when there are breaches, the fines gives you small, because the fines are very small, which means that it doesn't motivate people to comply with the act.
Okay. Are there also incentives for, or are there is there any support structure, like if you are supposed to dispose of certain hazardous waste in a specific manner, is there the support structure behind there, like whatever you need in collection systems or collection centers or disposal procedures to support that?
Okay, in the cities, okay, the councils are supposed to collect, but you find that because of our economy, they are not able to collect waste. So you see that there are a lot of waste dumped all over the town. And then when you go to the farms, like when it comes to chemicals and all those substances, the legislation actually empowers EMA to come and collect. It's like, say, if we have waste on our farm and we put the waste in drums because it is toxic, EMA is supposed to come and collect. But it doesn't have that capacity to come and collect.
So what is your solution then?
Challenge which we have. It means that the farmer has to come up with their own mechanism to be able to do that. And which in the urban centers, there's a place, there's a company, say in Harare, which is dealing with waste. But when you take your waste there, they make you pay for it. So it is not an incentive for you to take it there, because it's one, you have the cost of transporting the waste, and then you are charged against waste. So it doesn't motivate anyone to do that.
And the cost is probably higher than the fine if you burn it.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you burn it, you can get away with it.
Yeah. Yeah. How about the others?
Without, you have to pay.
Yeah. Columbus, you have joined us for the first time. I would like to welcome. Can we hear your voice? Columbus, can you just tell us quickly where you're joining us from? We can't hear you, Columbus.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. Welcome.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Columbus Nyamande from Harare. I'm actually joining you from Harare, Zimbabwe today.
Okay, welcome. So what Chido said, can you support this, or is there anything you want to add?
Well, I could talk a bit on the EMA, which is the Environmental Management Agency, which is a statutory body that is mandated with issues to do with environmental issues. Just like they are the regulating body when it comes to waste management and correct disposal. And also it actually guides on the policies that have to do with waste issues, as well as environmental degradation issues. So like she rightly said, on the issue of capacity, I think we're talking about the challenges that they are facing. One of them is actually financial. They don't seem to have adequate financial support to be able to figure out their mandates fully. So a lot of the areas that they are supposed to be working in are largely left. Then there's also the issue of whilst they are the overall policing body, there are also local authorities that work under, that have got their own, that they've got their own bylaws which regulate the waste management. And in the local authority areas, that's where the biggest lack is, whereby the local authorities don't seem to be playing much part in the waste management issues. So then, because now the environmental management agency is incapacitated, they cannot fully enforce the compliance from those local authorities. So yeah, that's the biggest challenge that we have as a country at the moment, whereby the regulator is incapacitated, and those other guys who are supposed to be playing the support roles are not doing enough.
Mm-hmm. How about do we still yeah, Gerald is still here. How about Malawi? Is that the same situation? It was you, Gerald.
Sorry, Anja, but it's
Oh no,
from
Jared.
Kenya.
Sorry, you are also in Kenya, right? Sorry, I'm mixing you up with Geoffrey. Geoffrey is not joined us today. So we have, who do we have? Gerald, Florence, Wanjiru, you're also joining us from Kenya? Florence, welcome. Can we hear you, please? Florence, we cannot hear you. Can you just quickly tell us where you're joining us from? Florence is still connecting to audio. So maybe, Gerald, you go ahead. Tell us about what this is situation in Kenya.
Yeah, in Kenya is more or less the same with what my colleagues have said. In Kenya, we have it is segregated into two departments. Like we have the national government responsibility, and also we have the county government responsibility. There are the Sustainable Waste Management Act, which was passed to a law, and for the national government, we have a body which is responsible for enforcing this law. We call it NEMA, the National Environmental Management. It develops policies on how the waste should be treated and how to manage the environment. We have I would say like there are several policies which have been developed on how to manage this, like for the people who are discharging or disposing any waste, whether generated within or outside Kenya, and this waste is likely to cause a pollution to the environment or to affect the health of the people, those people are directly accountable to such. And so the NEMA and the county government enforces such policies to make sure that there is a smooth running and the environment is well protected. It also develops regulations. Apart from that, it also prescribes measures and standards. It also issues guidelines for the management and conservation of the natural resources, including the environment. The county governments, which is the lower governments, they are responsible for functions of implementing the devolved functions, because the waste management or the environmental management is a devolved function in Kenya. And so the county governments, they establish the financial and operational conditions for the effective performance of this function. However, the NEMA is responsible for the national, it carries the national duties, I would say so. Yes.
And like maybe the other two, Hosea and Florence, are you able to use your mic now? Can we hear you? Florence seems to have problems with her microphone, unfortunately, but I think she's also from Kenya. Hosea, can you add maybe something to what Gerald just said? How does it, Gerald quite appropriately described the situation in Kenya. Can you maybe add something on how it actually works in practice? Does it, because like what Columbus said about, and what Chido also said about Zimbabwe, is that you have the legislation in place, you also have the authority, but then at the end, at the farm level, nobody really enforces the regulations, and people are basically left to their own means to solve the problem of waste. How is it in Kenya? Is there a better support structure in place to help people dispose of waste, or is it basically the same, that you have a regulation on a government level, but then there is very little support structure underneath? How is it in Kenya? Hosea? Hosea, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
So the bottles in Kenya they are not allowed to be thrown, but they are allowed to recycle. There is some companies that recycle the bottles. They can be collected in one area and be stored. Then the companies that recycle the bottles can come and take and recycle for another uses.
What do farmers usually do with their agrochemical bottles?
Yes.
If like at farm level, if you have empty agrochemical containers, what do farmers do with those?
Like most farmers, they are doing organic, so they use the organic fertilizers.
So okay. So, and those who are not organic, I mean, maybe you don't know that because you're working with organic farmers. Gerald or Florence, do you know what's happening at farm level?
Yes, at farm level for the local farmers also and the big farms, we have established some collection centers where, and this is mostly done by the suppliers and the manufacturing companies. They set up a collection, a central point where after farmers utilized all these products, the bottles are collected into a central point, and then the company will come and pick. Also, we have for the big farms like ours, the bottles are, we keep them in a specific point in the farm, and then they are collected later for recycling. And the authority, which I said, the NEMA, is responsible for enforcing this. It is required of us to have that. We also have the audit checks to ensure that we are enforcing this. Yes.
Good. So basically, Kenya is a little bit ahead in this compared to Zimbabwe, because now there seems to be also like a bit more of support structure behind the legislation. All right. Do you have to pay if you want to drop off those bottles, or if they are collected? Are you paying for that?
No, we don't pay for anything.
That's great. Chido, we need to write a letter to the Zimbabwe government to shape up their act, eh? All right.
Yeah.
Then the other question is, do you know like actors or companies in your region that do the waste removal? Like Gerald just said, they collect the bottles and then somebody comes and collects them. So you obviously have a service provider for that. Question to the others. Do you also work with service providers, or do you know any service providers who could collect your waste or recycle for example, plastics or paper or glass?
Okay, I would want to just add on that. In our country, we have, for example, the plastic industry is very big because we have shortage of water. Water is a problem both in urban and rural settings. So people carry water in buckets a lot. So which means that the industry where they make buckets is very huge now in Zimbabwe. Many companies have come up. So they buy those plastics from individuals. So what we actually have is the individuals who go around collecting plastics and they sell this plastic and also metal waste to companies for a fee. So that those individuals, they helped so much because it's like a source of income for these families.
Yeah. I think Florence still might have problems with her mic. Anybody else who wants to add something about companies or actors that recycle waste in your area? Yes, Columbus, go ahead.
To add on to what Shida has just said, we've got a lot of recycled plastic products that are being made at the moment, especially from those that are being collected, the plastics that are collected by individuals and selling them to these companies that do a lot of recycling. Like right now, the irrigation equipment that we have, the poly pipes, largely it's about 80% of them are recycled plastics. We also have some who are now making these footwear from recycled plastics as well. So there's quite a bit of activity on the individuals who actually collect the waste. But needless to say, this is actually happening in the urban areas and there is no recycling that is happening at farm level.
Okay. Yeah, so still a problem of logistics, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I actually met a young woman from Harare. Or not, oh, yeah, I think she was from Harare, or was she from Zambia? No, I think she was from Harare. Just a couple of weeks back, and she was starting a business of shredding plastics into very thin fabric and weaving plastic bags, like the thicker ones where you can have flour and stuff in. So that was also an interesting individual activity or an initiative of recycling plastic directly. Okay. In your operation, in your companies, I mean, Gerald, if I understand you right, you're from a bigger company, right?
Yes, however big is relative.
Okay. So have you got a waste manager in your company, or have you decided who is responsible for waste in your operation?
I would say no. However, there is a clear plan to ensure that the waste disposal is done correctly. The one handling these products, like if it's the agrochemical bottles, the one who is handling is directly responsible for their disposal. So we have the stores person who are discharging, and we also have the spray people, spraymen. The spray supervisors who are implementing. So they have the responsibility to make sure every empty bottle is taken back to the store, and the storeman has to keep it on its right location where it's supposed to be. So I would say no, we don't have a direct person who is responsible for this, but there is that awareness on how to handle these things and how to keep them.
How do you handle organic waste?
Organic waste, we have some different disposal areas. where we recycle them, we recover them, as you said, to get the compost manure. So we also have different heads, like for the harvesting supervisor, because that is when we get much waste. When sorting and grading of the produce, we get some organic waste, and so they are collected together uh, by the people responsible for hygiene in the farm. We have people who are responsible for hygiene. So during their cleaning, they collect them together and they dispose to the specific pits, because we have different pits for degradable and biodegradable pits. So they know how to separate and dispose there. And then we come later and finish up the process. Once the materials are wrought and decomposed, we take them back to the farm.
So you have basically different tasks assigned to people in different roles, but you don't have an overall structure for waste management. Then you said you have the procedures. Who reviews them?
Yes, we have technical assistants and the technical team. They are simply the auditors for the farm. They keep us on check to ensure that we are following these guidelines, and they are reviewed annually. Based on because I understand it's also a requirement for the Global Gap, and since we are Global Gap certified, they are reviewed annually.
Okay. Yes, yeah. I would then suggest to your management actually that you appoint a person who is in charge of the overall waste management to pull it all together, because what I understand from what you just described is waste is handled at different areas, right? There's different kinds of waste, and different people are in charge of or have different tasks of handling this waste, but there is no overall picture of what is the total waste that we have and how are we handling it. And so maybe it would be really helpful for you to have a proper waste management strategy that includes all of the different areas that need to be taken care of. Okay, Chido, your operation is a lot smaller. Who's in charge of waste management in your operation, or have you never talked about that before?
Hello. We had not allocated somebody to be really responsive. We say a section is managing the waste from that section, but basically we are not generating a lot of waste because we are doing organic farming. So as I said earlier on, our comes from packaging, where if we have bought something from the shops, but from the products, yeah, because we are recycling and composting and so forth.
So are you basically then the person responsible for this, or could you appoint somebody else in your team to be basically in charge of waste management?
Now we are appointing someone to be responsible for that.
Okay, you have now appointed someone. Okay, that's great.
Yeah, now somebody in the field production is responsible for that, and then they use that waste to make compost.
Okay, good.
But we just oversee to ensure that they are doing the compost are made, yeah, that kind of thing. But we, the production team is responsible for that because it's all biological material which we get as waste.
Are they also capable of reviewing the waste management plan on an annual basis? Or would that be somebody else?
Okay, we are putting up structures for certification and making certain people responsible for certain activities, so that we have a proper system which can be audited and which runs without the top management having their hands on everything.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah,
are
because
coming up with a system now.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, during this training, we will help you set up basically a template that you can follow for your waste management plan. But then you also need to decide who is going to be in charge of managing this template, because somebody now has to make follow-ups, has to make reports on it, has to review it regularly. So that is the decision that you need to make in your operation. Who is going to be in charge of the waste management? So when the auditor comes and audits our company, for example, in your case, for organic production, who will be the person answerable to the auditor on these questions, and who will have the documentation? You see, it's not just the guy who makes the compost, but then somebody needs to be in charge of the one who makes the compost to report on what is happening, or to regularly check on what is happening. So in your case, it might be you, but then if you are in charge of everything, that could be quite overwhelming as well. So maybe in your team, you can find somebody who's the right person to be in charge of that. Columbus, how is it in your situation? Columbus, do you have somebody who's in charge of your waste management?
Thank you. Unfortunately, on our side, our operations are very small, just like Chido's, I think even smaller than Chido's operation. So
okay.
we actually don't have any specific individual that is responsible for that. However, overall, I actually just lead the team in the ways of managing our waste and the like. But we are also pursuing organic farming, and most of our waste is actually recycled. And the recycling that we're doing is we have waste like cardboard boxes, which we actually put in our vermicompost operations, or we put them in our thermal compost operations as well. And we also have some crop residues that we're actually turning into compost, or we're actually putting them into our fish feeds or like.
You're breaking off, Columbus.
Livestock, as well as in the compost in our.
Can't hear you, Columbus. Columbus seems to have problems with his mic. Yes, it's like still, even if the operation is still very small, and you have a very clear picture of how you are recycling. Oh, now Columbus is back.
Hello,
We
sorry,
couldn't hear the end of what you were saying, Columbus.
Sorry, a call came through and interrupted me. My apologies.
Oh, okay.
Okay, sorry. So I was saying possibly what we need from what I'm gathering through this discourse is we need a focal person on the other, to be specifically overly responsible for that, which we don't have at the moment. So yeah, it's something that we need to work on, definitely.
All right.
Maybe as late as yesterday, we should actually put somebody responsible in that respect.
You can still do that going forward. It's not an issue. It's just it's just that you are aware of it, that even if you in your head you have a clear picture of how you recycle or how you compost your waste, for the matter of certification, you will need to have a person who wears the hat of it and can review like what is happening, how much does it cost us, is there any problems, do we need to make improvements, are we meeting our targets, and so on. Yeah, so it's just, especially when you're a startup, when you're just small operations, people have overwhelming responsibilities usually, and it is, can you switch off your mic for a second, because I'm echoing in your mic. it makes life and work easier for people if they have a clear picture of, that is what I have to do. These are my responsibilities. These are the tasks that I have to do. Like what Gerald was describing, these people have an idea of what they need to do because it has been set in a structure, in a procedure. So this is what we'll help you to do during this course, to come up with this procedure and with the structure. And one step of it is appointing a person who's in charge. Okay, let's go to the next step. Florence, are you able to speak now, or is your mic still not working? I would really love to hear your voice. No, nothing from Florence, unfortunately. Florence, can you speak? We cannot hear you, Florence. Maybe you write in the chat where you're joining us from, which company and which country, and what your role is. That would be nice to know. All right, in the last session, we were also talking about setting out to look at the kind of waste that we produce, where, how much, where does it go from there? Have you already started recording, or is that still an idea that you have for the future? Who has started, maybe? Jared, in your operation, are you recording, or is it just done on whatever is necessary?
Yes, I would say we have different records for the same operations, but I would still say it's not complete because it doesn't capture everything, like the whole process. The records we have to just record how many kgs of the waste. To also record when was these bottles collected, the date of collection. I feel there's so much left out. The records we
Okay.
have is scanty. Yeah.
All right. For example, you produce vegetables, right?
Yes.
For export?
Yes.
Okay, so it's fresh veggies that are basically prepared, packed, and then shipped, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So do you record the amount of organic waste that you have?
We don't have that record, but we have a record of how much has gone to waste.
Okay. So how do you record that then? If you try to explain how you do that.
Like for the vegetables, we only send the conforming kit to
Yeah.
the pack house, and we
Yeah.
do the grading at the farm level. So
Yeah.
anything that is
Okay.
not conforming is a waste.
Yeah.
But we also have to get a clear record of that which is not conforming before we send it to the pit.
Okay. So you do that.
Yes.
Okay. So that may basically, because I think if I was your manager, I would want to know, like, we had 5 hectares of carrots. We harvested whatever 10 tons of carrots, but only half a ton was sold, actually. So 1 ton was lost at field stage because it was not good state, and another ton was lost, a half a ton was lost during preparation in the pack house. Yeah, so I have an idea, where are we losing and how much are we losing and how much does it cost us. And then if I see, okay, the loss at field stage is much too big, we need to have some interfering there. Or if the loss at the pack house is too big, I would go like, why, what is happening there? What can we do to stop the high losses there? So that's the kind of records that you take, and that's also the kind of management action that is taken at your level?
Yes, these records are actually used during the whole process. As you have explained, that is how it goes, because you might have 1 hectare of broccoli or of fine beans, but there is always a set target of which you are supposed to produce from that. If you get less, you can get less what was exported, but typically the yield did hit the target. Only that 20% or 10% was not conforming. And now we have things we call reviews. Now during reviews now you have to give explanations as to why so much went to waste. And also, if you hit the target set, but you still have something that went to waste, you have to think like we can convert this waste into something and we sell. So there's always that discussion going on over and over.
Okay. But this is basically done by your technical team or your management team without a designated waste manager.
The technical team are responsible for the waste management in the farm.
Okay.
But now after the records, they are also the custodians of these records. After the records have been raised and filled, now it's sent to the management for discussion and
Review.
informing future decisions.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah. No, that looks like a professional operation to me already. Okay. So the smaller operations here, like Chido and Columbus, there's a lot to learn from that for you. Chido, have you started recording? Or is that for you because the amounts are still so small and it just happens on a ad hoc basis? What's the situation with you?
We have started recording because we now want recording for certification. We are being ambitious to be certified within the next 3 months.
Okay. Columbus, have you started recording?
Yes, we actually do record everything.
Okay.
When we do our harvest, everything that goes to the market is recorded. All the excess, which we actually put on as livestock feed, or we actually take them to the compost, it's also recorded. So every activity that we do, we do record. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Even though smaller quantities, but we do record.
Okay. Chido raised a question last time that they have cardboard and paper packages from things they buy, and the question was if they can use that as mulching material or for compost making, because Chido wants to get organic certification. Now I checked with my husband, who is an organic certifier, and what he says is everything that comes from outside needs to be agreed on with your certifier. It needs to be approved first. So if you want to use cardboard boxes, you need to tell your certifier, listen, these are the kinds of cardboard boxes that we're getting. We would like to do XYZ with them. So let's say we would like to use them in mulching, or we would like to shred them and use them in our compost. Of course, it's very difficult to get organically produced cardboard boxes. I have never heard of that, which would be usually, if you have input from outside, they should be organically certified. It's not possible for cardboard boxes. So another issue would be if there is a large amount of print on them. the ink would be an issue because it could be toxic. So if they are plain cardboard boxes and there's not a lot of strange glue on them, your certifier might give you permission to use them as mulch or as composting material. But in any case, you would need to get their written agreement before you start using them. Is that clear enough, Chido?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
All right. Because for me, I think it would be a really big waste if we could not use this carbon-rich material in our farms. But of course, if you want to have certification, then you have to stick to the rules. And the rule says you need to have written approval first. Okay. So, if you've started recording, that means you have basically a rough idea of the waste that is generated in your operation. What I would like to look at now for us together is which of these create the biggest problem right now. Yeah, is the most difficult to handle, or is the most costly for you? Where are you losing the most? And then let's look at it together and see if we can find some solutions for that. All right. So I've put this template up here, and I can try to write in. No, I cannot write here. Let me see. I need to go. Where can I do this now? No, I need to get out. But I can just try to use the whiteboard instead. Let me see. I can stop sharing this. Stop sharing here. See? So here we have a whiteboard. Can you see the whiteboard? Just quickly confirm to me if you can see the whiteboard. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So let me see if we can copy this in there. Here. Bigger, please. Paste. It's not working like that. Okay, then we just use it like this. The question is, during handling, during transport, during storage. So these three areas, handling, my pen is not right. Handling, transport, and storage. And then the question of financial issues, managerial issues, or technical issues. So these are the areas that we can look at. And let's just record it as much as we can. So maybe you can just give me an idea. Hosea, where with your customers, what seem to be the biggest issues? Hosea, are you with us? Hosea doesn't seem to be there. Gerald, in your company, where do you think are the biggest problems or the most difficult issues or the most costly issues?
I would say for us, of the listed, the financial, I don't know whether it was financial section.
In which
Yeah.
sense?
Most of these waste we get, most of them are manageable, but because after looking at the root cause of the why we get the waste, you find it's possibly because of some of the causes like pests and the diseases mostly. So these are manageable issues, but now you might find at the point when you want to manage these, you are not well equipped. The products might not be there on time. Financial issues, because not always. Some of these managing of this pests is very cost intensive, and you need to be you need to have a lot of products to manage them. So financial issues becomes a challenge. Number two, in our country, the cost of production has gone very, very high. And so you find you can grow a crop very well, but the cost of managing that crop, since it's very high, you are compromising on some things. You can say, I'll not apply this so that I lower my cost of production, but you are lowering, you are not using that product at the expense of getting some waste. So I would say financial challenges.
Okay. Have you ever thought about how much the waste cost you to compare to what you like? What if I understand you right? You're skimping on some expenses to lower the production cost, but then you create higher waste. But if you can't assign a cost to the waste section, then you can never compare if you're actually making a good bargain or if you're losing. Yeah. So maybe that a little bit more investment in the beginning would save you on the waste side, which would be cheaper than what you're losing right now. Do I get what I'm saying?
Yes, yes, I understand you. We have done some cost benefit analysis on some blocks to see, but I would say would rather go with the waste, because if you compare, it doesn't add up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other areas where you think they are difficult to solve right now, or they lead to higher waste? Anybody? So it's not just Gerald, Columbus, Chido, you can all join in, please, in the discussion. Where do you feel like the biggest difficulties are, or the most costly problems are?
On our side, I think with our clients, we've got issues of what they term quality, right? We've got a lot of produce that goes to the market, and we feel that it qualifies for whatever specifications that they have, but sometimes it's turned back on what they term quality. So all that comes back to us as these leftovers. Some of them we can actually take them up as we process them, maybe we dehydrate them and dry them. But that which cannot be dried definitely has to go to waste. And at times, because of the high nature of the perishability of the produce, when you take it to the market and it doesn't go, then we also have issues of having to dispose of all that. We have to recycle it, and that actually cuts into our margins as well. Then we also have the issue of what can I say? The cancellation of orders. You know, an order is placed, you actually harvest, then maybe immediately after harvesting, before you even deliver, then they say, okay, maybe we just need a fifth of what the initial order was, but that comes in after you've already harvested. So yeah, those are some of the dynamics that we have to deal with. So actually, our waste is increases because of that, and that is actually part of our post-harvest losses that really affects our operations. Then we have issues with like when we do export, we've got some guys we work with, the agents. They would actually give you an order to say maybe the market wants this grown specifically for a certain window period. And you actually grow. And when the product is mature, they will simply say, hang on, we're still waiting for confirmation from the market whether you should actually harvest and deliver now. And because of that, the product is actually overgrown in the field, or the quality is actually affected at the end of the day. So yeah, you find it pretty difficult as well. That's one of the areas that we have to deal with when it comes to waste management. Because as long as we have that excess, then it becomes our waste. If we can't recycle it, or if we can't actually process it, then it means we are stuck with a product which goes to waste and the production costs are not recouped. Yeah, thank you.
If you say crops are substandard, what causes that? Is that during production already, or is this handling, or is that transport? Where does the substandard comes from? Daryl? Daryl, can you tell us more about like where does the substandard part of the crop come from? Is it during production or handling or transport, or what could be the issue, or what is the main issue?
You said me?
Yeah, so like you said, you have quite a margin of substandard produce that cannot be sold. So I was just asking, what is the main issue there? Is it during crop production? So even when you harvest, it's already like not well grown, or does the loss happen during handling or transport or storage? Where's the issue?
I think it's a process. The quality of the produce gets substandard within the whole process of the crop cycle. Like during production, you find that like some fruits might have some pest bites, pest damages, and so the client will not accept that. So right away, that is a waste. Number two, some of these problems are varietal. They are variety specific. Like you might have a certain variety, you plant a certain variety, and it behaves totally different from what you expected. Like, for example, there's a variety that I'll not say the name, but we planted expecting a certain spec of the fine bean. But what we got was really terrible, a very long bean. And so we had to cut almost a half of the pod was going to the waste because it was very long and it could not fit into the customer specification.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that is of course an issue. Yeah. We had a very similar problem actually. That reminds me, in Kenya once, we were growing greenhouse cucumbers, and the customers, the market in Kenya was used to a certain type of cucumber. And these cucumbers were actually better than what is the market standard in Kenya. But people were just not used to them. So they looked at them and were like, what kind of cucumbers are these? So they were refused, although they were actually better than other cucumbers, but the market just was not used to them. So that would cause quite a bit of problem as well. Okay. Anybody else wants to add something? Chido, what is the biggest problem in your operation?
I think the biggest problem is okay, what we are calling waste, which is not really waste, because okay, for example, for the hemp crop, we are then asked to burn if we are not able to process it. So if we extract oil from it, which means that what remains is the waste. But now we are saying it should not be waste. So we are in the process of finding equipment to process it further to other raw materials.
Residues?
As a raw material for other cosmetic substances. Yes.
Okay, so basically residues that have no further use. That is the hemp seed that you're talking about?
We are now saying the hemp. Yes, not the seed, but the leaves and the stem. Because we would have taken only the flower. So now what we are going to do, yes, so now what we are going to do is that the stem and the leaves, we are now looking for equipment to process it further into other things, because it can be processed to other things. Because if we don't do that, then the regulation will tell us that you must burn, and we must prove that we burn the residues. So we are saying it's not good for the environment, and it's also material which is of great use, because it can be, it is raw material for like cosmetics and other things.
Okay, so but these are basically.
So but our
Sorry, you're
even with the sweet potatoes for color, we are saying everything which is waste, we are looking at how we can put that it becomes a raw material for something else.
So you don't have any areas where you feel right now you're creating excessive waste that is caused by a problem. It's just the normal.
No. Yeah, it's normal, like the only waste. That's why I talked about packaging. When we buy something, we are not creating any waste.
Okay.
Because we are finding a use to everything we are doing. We are like reusing, if something is no longer useful in this manner, operations. So you find that I can say, like, if we have those we are supposed to put waste, which we call for plastics. The litter drums are not for waste. But because we are finding use, we are keeping thinking that what is it we can use that waste for.
Okay.
What is supposed to be waste, we are trying to figure out what do we use that for, and we are being successful so far, and looking further in how actually to make a profit from what is supposed to be waste.
So in the next step, I would like us to look more into maybe if these are the issues that you're having right now, how we can address them during this training. So look at, do we maybe already have solutions that we can share as a group? Have you found a solution to a certain problem? Or can we, during the training, develop a solution? Let me close this whiteboard. I need to save it first. Share. I save this. So, no, I would like to share this whiteboard. Let me just do a screenshot of it.
I think what we want to learn in this course also is to find out what products can we make from waste.
Yeah, okay. All right.
And what type of equipment would one require to be able to process that?
Right. Okay. Let me go back here. Can you see my screen again?
Yes.
Okay. So the next question now is still a question towards your, so now we have identified your problem areas, right? In your team, does anybody in your team need to be trained to solve the problem or to improve the situation? Is there anything where you think within your team you need to maybe raise capacity so that the problem can be solved? Or is this nothing that can be solved with just staff training? I've listed here a couple of areas that are possibilities.
Yeah, I think there's need of training, but there's need to identify what type of training. But I think there's need of capacity, because sometimes we are not doing something because of lack of knowledge. But when there's training and awareness is created, it means that you realize that actually what you were thinking you could actually have done A, B, C, D.
So in your area, where would this be? That would be in during processing, or where would that basically be?
In processing, and also identifying what type of processing and the equipment, which one simple equipment, which you can start off with at a small scale.
Okay.
Because the problem is that some equipment are too big, but there are certain things which you can start to very small, and then you can build a market for it.
But that is basically a capacity need for yourself. It's not so much for your staff, right? Do I get that right? So you don't feel like among your team there is nobody who needs training to reduce waste, basically. So it's for you, the question is more like, what can we do with the waste that we have?
With the training you give us, we are able to train them how to handle the waste. So which means that we need to be capacitated to know ourselves what is waste and how to handle it. And then we are able to put the system and to be able to train our workers that this item, you put it there and it goes there, you know, that kind of thing. Which means that the important training is for us to understand waste and to actually, like in our company, what we are interested in is to conclude that what is waste in one operation, we want to use it as raw material in another operation. Because we believe that is the best thing. If it has got a monetary value, it means that you are able to carry on the process because you are going to get $1 from it. But if it is waste which you are not able to put good value to it, it means that even the way you handle it is different. And even the workers, the way they handle it will be different. But if we have attached the value, so which means that we need to attach value to waste. How do we attach value to waste in our operation? Whereby material for something else within our operations, and starting off to be able to do it in a small way and to build it up.
Yeah, but still, once you have maybe understood how you could use waste better, there might still be a need for passing on this knowledge to your workers, so that maybe there's a need to separate waste so that it can be used, you know. So as part of your waste management plan, you would also need to identify the people who need training and what kind of training. So do they just need a basic waste management training on this is how we separate waste, these are the different kinds of waste, these are the different waste collection areas, so this goes in this bin, this goes in that bin, or this is collected in this area? Or maybe if we store these containers, we need to store them in a way that no toxic liquids can leach out, or you see they don't get flooded. Or maybe you have all those cardboard boxes. How can we make sure we don't harbor pests and mice and rodents in here, because we're keeping those nice dry cardboard boxes in a way that would invite rats, for example. Yeah, so they still maybe need for also passing on this information in a orderly manner to staff members, so to say, like, okay, once a year we have a waste management training, and then this is the kind of topics that we teach or that we convey to our workers, so that we make sure everybody's on the same page. They also know how to handle waste, how to separate waste, how to give waste a value. Because if your workers now think this is not valuable, they might just discard it or treat it in a way that it cannot no longer be used, you see. So they also need to understand what kind of value you have assigned to a certain type of waste. So for your waste management plan, that is also what you need to set up. Like, who is the group of people who will be trained when, for 1 hour, for half a day, whatever. And these are the topics that we're going to cover during the training. All right. So as part of a waste management plan, first of all, who's the responsible person? And this responsible person will also need to make the training plan and say, this is what we're going to train to whom, when. All right. So for me right now, this is just giving you the information, how it will, along which lines you could be thinking of setting up the right procedures for your waste management plan. So thinking of who needs what kind of training. For example, somebody else, I think it was it Godfrey, who said they have a lot of issues with the labeling of their product. There's like, they use two and then they have to throw it away. So maybe there's need for training of staff on how to package and label in a way that is not so wasteful, or how to use a machine better, maybe, so that it doesn't produce so much waste. Yeah. Or Gerald, if you have a lot of issues pre-harvesting, so you have a lot of pest damage on your crop, or you have substandard product, maybe there's more training need for actually the technical people on the ground who grow the crop. Do we need to do something there to make sure we produce a better crop on maybe soil fertility? Yeah. So maybe the issue is that the soil is just not good enough to produce a good crop. Am I frozen? Or can you still hear me? You just quickly give me a
We
thumbs
can
up.
still hear you.
Okay, because for me it looks like I'm frozen. Okay, good. So these are all the areas where you feel like this is where we produce waste. Here's an area where waste needs to be handled, and think about, is there a need for the members of your team to be trained on handling this waste or handling a crop, better not to produce the waste. All right. Any questions so far?
For me, not a question, but really a concern.
Okay.
As you've been stating that probably to have a clear structure, we need someone responsible for this. How would you advise? Because I'm not sure of the others, but for us, we are in a business, and one of our main KPI is cost cutting. So, don't you think this is an added cost?
No, you would give this role to one of the staff members that you already have. So you would not hire a new person for that. All right. You would just officially choose one of the people who have quite a good oversight over all of the waste that's happening in your operation, and say, you are now responsible for this. So you will be the one who has to set aside a little bit of his time and energy to oversee the waste that's happening in our company, report on it, and organize the trainings. So that is just a matter of you now choosing the right person. And I think because you're already working with TD.COLEAD, you could also always apply to TD.COLEAD to send an expert to give that person a training and to come and do maybe a waste assessment together with that person. All right. You can always get an expert to help you to get started. Right.
Yeah.
So if that is something that would help you, once you have chosen a person, you could always apply to TD.COLEAD for support by sending you an expert who would come to your farm and help getting this waste manager started.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that is always a very good opportunity that comes from working with TD.COLEAD. That person could stay with you for a couple of days, do a waste assessment together with the waste manager. So they set up the waste management plan together, they decide on the training needs together, and all of that.
Okay.
Yeah, good. Right. Even if you have, like, through this waste management plan, if you have identified other areas where there is actually a bigger problem that you need to solve, and that can be solved maybe with a training or with a consultant, you can always apply to TD.COLEAD for support in these things. For example, TD. Yeah. Yes, Gerald.
Yes, I also had a question. Like, for example, we had during our previous meetings, we had a proposal of erecting an incinerator. So that's because we are producing a lot of waste, the chemical waste. So, whether the TD.COLEAD can chip in to help us set up this structure.
Probably not with the structure itself. But they could help you, for example, with finding an expert who can advise you on which is the best incinerator for your case. So they could always help you with expertise.
Okay, understood.
I'm not working full-time for TD.COLEAD, so I cannot actually make a qualified statement on the other thing. You would always just need to discuss with TD.COLEAD directly. But as I understand, they mostly support with expertise, not with infrastructure.
Okay.
Okay, but Chido, for example, in your case, if waste valorization is a very interesting topic for you, you might apply to TD.COLEAD to ask for an expert to come and look at your operation and see what kind of products could be made out of your wastes. That is always an option.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on because we are also moving on with our time. What's the time now? It is 10 to 12 already. 10 to 11. Okay, so let's look at what do you already know? And I would like to take you to a website, which is quite interesting. Let me just open this for you. I'm going to stop sharing this one. I'm going to start sharing another one. Here, start sharing. Here we go. This is a company called Sierra Nevada. And what they have done is, which is quite lovely actually, they have on their website, they have set up this interactive map. Can you see the map on your screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the whole company grounds. And for each section of their production, they have put up these little, how do they call pins? Where you can now see what they're actually doing. So let's see what this company is doing with their circular economy. So they have a garden and a greenhouse. They have hops and barley fields. Can we see what they do? So they have then a description of what they do there. So they do crop rotation with nitrogen fixing crops to improve soil health. They have a drought resistant landscaping. What have they got there? So recognizing the severity of droughts in California, we converted landscaping from water-thirsty lawns to drought-resistant native plants and replaced ground cover with scaryscapes. So that's also interesting to say, okay, we want to have a nice company ground, but we don't use lawn to save water. They have electric vehicle charging. So they have electric vehicles for their company vehicles, and they do not use diesel or fuel. They have electric vehicles. They produce biodiesel. Let's have a look here. All used fryer oil left from making French fries and other fried fruit is collected and converted into biodiesel. Interesting. Spent grain and yeast. What do they do with that? After the mashing and lautering process, malted barley has done its job in the brew house. So this is a brewer, they make beer, by the way, and no longer needed. Spent grain, along with spent yeast from fermentation, is moved to holding tanks before being metered into trailers headed for regional cattle and dairy farms. So they use this, you do this in I've seen this in Kenya as well, from the brewery. The mash then is being picked up by basically, it's mainly piggeries, right? So it's used for animal feeds. That's also interesting. Rain spur, what is that? Rail transfer facility 2 miles from the brewery to receive rail cars of malt. Oh, okay. So they have actually, instead of using trucks, they have their own little rail system. That's also interesting. What have they got here? Wastewater treatment plant. The wastewater has a high organic content and would place a heavy burden on the wastewater. So they process their wastewater on the ground. I've visited a factory in Ghana, and you have a lot of wastewater from washing fresh produce. They wash a lot of pineapples and mangoes and coconuts, and so they have a lot of wastewater, and they have also invested in a wastewater recycling plant, and so they save the water and can reuse it then again for washing the next crop, which is a very clever plan because it saves you a lot of cost on finding other potable water. What else? A hot rod. What is a hot rod? Is a hot rod composter that turns discarded food from restaurants, food scraps, break rooms, and some portion from the brewery into compost without greenhouse emissions. That is interesting. So that is a hot rod composter, is a composter that makes compost in a very short time, usually just a couple of days. There is a company in Nairobi that does that. They're called what are they called? Synergy, not Synergy. Synergy, they're called Synergy. So they have electrified trailers, water conservation in the bottle shop, solar areas, so they do solar, they have solar panels, microtube turbines and batteries. What is that? Tesla battery system. Let's have a look. They have micro turbines. The system works in tandem with our solar arrays to provide over 90% of the electricity. So that is very cool. They provide 90% of the electricity that they need for this huge complex. They produce that themselves. And then here we have recycling. What do they do? Recycling. So they have a zero waste policy, which they already achieved, which is great. From cardboard to cans, disposable gloves, shrink wraps, is source separated and collected in bulk to generate clean, recyclable materials. Wow. Okay. Heat recover and energy efficiency. So they also obviously they capture the heat that they produce to reuse it again. So they reduce the amount of electricity needed for process cooling. This is what I mentioned earlier. So if you find ways to reduce your cost, or to recover your waste, that could reduce a lot of the cost that you have on energy and stuff. All right, let me stop sharing this. Okay, I hope this was a bit of an inspiration for you. I think it's a very cool company because they have really invested a lot of their energy and thought process and money into achieving this zero waste and low energy consumption company. And they're using this to their advantage by also advertising this now on their website. Right. Which strategies do you already know to waste reduction? Which are you already using? Or which could you share with us in the group? Masaya, maybe you have seen with your clients some good strategies to reduce waste. Are you still with us, Hosea? Hosea has a problem. Chido, which strategies have you already discovered?
Okay, in our case, the strategy which we've discovered is that we can actually make some superfoods using our waste from both the sweet potatoes as well as from the hair. We have discovered, but we have not yet started the processing. So that's why I was saying that it would be good to next crop which we are already putting. We are putting a new crop of sweet potatoes and a new crop of fans. And what we want to do is that for the sweet potatoes, the ones which are not good for the fresh market, we are then going to process that.
Okay, Chido, could you put in the chat exactly the waste products that you have?
We want to make a product.
Okay, could you put
both hemp and
okay. Sorry, you were breaking off at the end. Could you put in the chat exactly the type of waste products that you have that you would like to valorize? So like the sweet potato peel, but then exactly like what kind of herbs do you use? What kind of products do you have that are waste that you would like to reuse? Because that makes it easier for us to also help you identify maybe possible use cases. You could just write that in the chat. Columbus, do you have anything to share with us? Jared said you had to leave. It's 12 o'clock. It's, yeah.
Hello, sorry, my network just skipped out and I had challenges coming back.
All right, okay.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that I'm learning here about value addition. Not in the ordinary sense of value addition that we know, but actually improving or the way of managing our excess or our waste or our stover. And one of the strategies I think that I'm actually looking forward to implementing is trying to look for a combination of the crops or the residues that we can actually use to make some liquid fertilizers from the excess or from the ungraded produce. Then we also looking at making some livestock feed properly, not just to give it as raw, but actually to process it in a way that it adds value to what we actually give to our livestock. I think for now, that's all I can think of. And maybe we also need to look at how best we can actually dispose of the plastic waste, of which I'm now considering that each trip that I actually make to town with some deliveries and stuff, or even create another trip just to take some waste to one of these waste collection companies, just to dispose of that waste, probably get some bit of income whilst I'm actually disposing of the plastic waste that I would be having at the farm. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I have seen your message, Chido. Peels and these don't. Okay, good, great. This is a lot of very good input. Florence, I guess you still have problems talking. Hosea is also Hosea. Can you hear us? and they might just have problems with their mics. Okay. Right. Is it I've heard you now what you're interested in, and Chido and Columbus, I can take your suggestions into consideration for the next sessions. Let me just quickly go through this. Go back. So of these 8 topics, which is like how to identify and record types, amount, and movements of waste, roles and responsibility of waste managers, how to minimize waste, how to calculate the cost of different waste management solutions, how to train in-house and subcontracted staff maybe, how to handle materials and waste efficiently, how to monitor against targets, or how to write a waste management plan. What I now see, what is not in here, but what might actually be your biggest interest is how to valorize waste. Is that right? Meaning how to make a new product out of a waste product. Or is any of these topics also majorly important for you?
Yes.
So Chido is mostly making new products, valorizing waste. Maybe Hosea and Florence has left us as well. Yeah, we're over time now, so we need to hurry a bit. Hosea, maybe you can write in the chat, or Columbus, you can also write in the chat if there's anything of these that you would like us to cover in the next 2, because we have 2.5 weeks to go. And we need to decide on where to set our focus for the last 2 weeks. We will still cover waste, organic waste material, composting, liquid fertilizer, maybe biogas, and maybe incineration as charcoal making, for example, or to gain electricity. So we will cover these 4 topics. But besides that, what I now see the most interesting topic for you is how to make maybe livestock feed or other products out of waste. Is that correct?
Yes. For us, yes.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. I have just put up a waste management plan template here for you. I will not send it out, but I will put it up on the platform as well, so you can find this on the platform to help you set up your own waste management template. You can always amend that. This is basically just for recording, first of all. And you would need to add more lines as you have more products. So what you would write is, it's sorted by the different waste types. And then you would have the management line you have in the columns. So if you have crops for secondary markets, maybe you harvest tomatoes, but they are not or green beans, but they are too long, as what Columbus said, or was Jared said? Jared said. So you have too long green beans, so the type would be green beans. Location where it's generated, is it in the pack house? Is it in the field? What is the collection point? So where are they being picked up? What's the amount? What's the cost? So that is not the specification. What is the cost? How much did this cost you to have this kind of waste? And what would be your target amount? Like how would you like to reduce this to? And then at the end of the season, you would also record, have you achieved it? What was the result against the targeted amount? And then you will have a responsible person, or you have somebody who transports this. So this is not always filled, but sometimes there is a person who is in charge of transporting this, or a company that's transporting this. So you would record that as well. And you would do this for every kind of these waste types. So maybe organic matter that can be used for animal feed, you would do the same. You have maybe reusable materials. We have maybe recyclable materials like plastics. you have maybe landfill materials, there you would set a target to reduce that as much as possible. So this is how you would record your waste, and you set your targets, you record the streams, and then you would monitor them against the targets. All right. I will put this up on the platform. I'll send you the link so you can access it, you can use it, and you can change it if you want, or if you have any questions, you can always get back to me. Any questions and answers for today? Questions and comments for today? No? Okay, then let me just quickly wrap up. So what we've talked about today is the different steps of the waste management plan, the questions that you have to ask yourself, the actions that you have to take in choosing the right person who's responsible, giving them the tasks, and then giving your staff maybe the trainings, identifying your problem areas and your waste streams, and then maybe also come up with solutions on how to reduce it, set your targets, and monitor against your targets. And during the next 2 weeks, we will try to come up with as many solutions as possible for you to actually achieve better targets. We will see each other again on Thursday this week, which is the 23rd of November, same 11 o'clock East African time, which is, I think, 10 o'clock Harare time and 9 o'clock Accra time, I believe. You have more materials that is still open on the platform that you can read. There's also a little quiz that you can do, and the recording for today and the template for today and the whiteboard for today I will upload so that you can access them as well. And then we really hope to see you on Thursday again, where we will wrap this up and start looking into what we can do with the organic matter that we have on our farm. Isaac gives me a thumbs up. Thank you, Isaac. Everybody else, maybe you switch on your camera and your mic so we can ask any questions, say any comments, or say goodbyes, whatever. Isaac, do you want to say something to wrap up? Chidu has unmuted herself. Chidu, any comments? No comments? Well, then we'll close it here. Hope to see you on Thursday. I'll send out the links to the platform, and then I wish you all a pleasant week.
Okay, I'm happy so far with what we are doing.
Good. All right. Okay, then see you on Thursday. Bye-bye.